Are you like me and it's March 31st, 2026, and you're just having your own day? You're kind of going about your own business. You're walking your dog, even. You decide to check your phone because it's like, oh, I finally feel like I can kind of rest a little bit. It feels like things are kind of maybe not moving in the worst direction for trans people as a whole in the United States currently. And then you find a news article that says the Supreme Court rules against conversion therapy bans on trans people. Hi, welcome back to another video. It's just been fun to exist as a trans person living in the United States in the past, year and change, right? It's been exhausting. It's literally exhausting. If you're not dealing with somebody calling you mentally ill online, you can't like even exist in a public space online. And it's just like the cynical like hold that people have over themselves to like have to attack and like go after trans people. I continuously say this, that there's 99 of you to every one of us, and like we can hold our ground to a certain extent, but after a certain point it's like we can't like you know argue with everybody. So you might think you're winning, but we're literally just blowing you off because you're so cookie cutter and we've gotten used to it, and now our skin's thicker. And then like we move on with our days, and occasionally we have somebody that comes up and interacts with us in such a way, right? And it doesn't even phase us, or it phases us very little. It may have been like a deep gash before, but it's like a paper cut now. And so we've gotten to the point that it's like it's literally the only thing that really affects us is whenever the news is bad, and also like implementing things like in a rapid pace kind of thing. Not that it's like, oh, it's signed by a certain group, and maybe down the line it'll be signed by this other group, and maybe down the line it'll go into effect after the courts battle it out and like really like determine what's going to be the rule out of like the ruling kind of thing. So this one is just cool. This one's just awesome. It's just one of those things that you see and you're like, okay, this is real. This is happening. It's like, let's calm down. Like you see these headlines, and the headlines don't specifically always say like for trans youth. So like whenever you're a trans adult living in the United States, sometimes you start going a little bit crazy just seeing these things pop up in your news feed. No matter what you're like doing, you can just like swipe on your phone to the corner and like all the news starts coming down, or you can be on social media and you see this news. You can be on whatever outlet, right? You can literally find it like anywhere. It's literally all over the internet. It's the sensation that everyone's going through right now. Even like people that aren't trans are just like, okay, I'm kind of tired of hearing about like trans people. That's kind of where we're at. It's just, but this is where we're at. We're really just like hyper focused on making trans people's lives difficult, and potentially like making children a lot less mentally healthy than they were any time beforehand. If somebody was transitioning, I guarantee if they were going to transition and then they waited a while and they had changes, now they hate everybody and they're still going to transition, and they also had to hear all of this stuff going on. You're not doing anything. You're not doing any sort of credit to any sort of child that is transitioning. I don't like speaking on behalf of like trans youth, but I can speak on behalf of myself, and I can tell you that like within the trans community, nobody can stand this. Nobody can stand to like see these articles all the time and not have like an assurance that things are going to get better. I understand that like we left the World Health Organization, which recognizes trans women as like women, and that like we recently left that at the beginning of 2026. So it's like it was like January like 20th or something like that. So like we left the World Health Organization. We like have now like this like we don't know what's going to happen, but we know that people want us to not exist. We know that people from the Heritage Foundation go and say like we want to just outlaw care entirely. But then you see the Supreme Court rule 8-1 in favor of conversion therapy. And I wonder, is this going to play into effect with like the jail systems and the trans people that are being tested to see if they can keep their fertility kind of thing? Does this make any sort of difference on that? I don't think it does with this ruling, but maybe it'll soften it somehow. I don't really know. But it's just really fun and cool and interesting and awesome whenever you have to like exist and like just try to live your life, and then like your government's trying to erase you. Not only erase you as an individual, but your entire group, your entire like social group in some cases, your entire like the identity of like this advancement in a culture, or like a being to be able to evolve in a certain way, or just to change, or just you have to make things so a certain way. You want to make things so cookie cutter, and it's very apparent because of the insults that we receive. And I think if you just listen to a trans person that just talks about their experience in the past year and just how things have played out, largely, if there is some coherency about how they can speak to you, you should listen to them and have them like go over like their concerns and what they've seen in this past like year and change, because like we know what's coming. I feel like we know what's up. We're in the crossfires of things. We're experiencing these things. The takeaway from like the general public anymore is that like these aren't happening to us. These issues that you say or you're facing are not happening to us specifically. So when that happens, that ends up being like, it's not happening to me, so it's not happening situation. And since there's so few of them, or so few of us compared to them, they have no idea that this is even happening. Largely, in a lot of the cases, you'd be surprised talking about trans news stuff how little anybody even knows what you're talking about. There's been times like my aunt's come over and I'm just like, hey, I guess I'm a terrorist to the government now. And she's like, oh, that's nice. It's like, just for existing as being a trans woman in the United States in 2025 kind of thing. It's like, I'm going to be a terrorist soon because that's what the government wants to label me as. And, so this is where like all this fun comes in, because like when you read these articles or you read the headlines of these articles, they don't often just state outright that this is for trans youth. And in this case, it's for trans youth. Now, I want to get into it a little bit more, that the United States Supreme Court struck down Colorado's law banning conversion therapy for minors. This decision was made 8-1 in favor of the therapist, challenging the law, saying the ban violated the First Amendment because it restricted speech based on viewpoints. Well, here's the thing. If you want to like go from experience, the difference between viewpoints and science actually has like a medical credibility and soundness to it. Viewpoints is usually somebody that's just trying to fight or argue a situation because they want to, and they want to just kind of skew. Like, I mean, I feel like that's like the case here, because like, it's just like, I feel like science should be backed by science. That's kind of like how the world works, but I guess not. I mean, we're trying to like completely erode every like fabric of every single possibility of like what the world is and how it works, and just like what's up is down, and we live in like bizarro world that things do not correlate as they seem, and you should question everything, but also try not to sound like a complete and total conspiracy theorist, but do it in a way that is articulate enough, and try to not go too far off topic, because people just like, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to live in this time. But we, come from a place where the vice president came out before the 2024, doing the debates in 2024, and they're like, we're not fact checking anymore. So like literally that's been like this administration's thing. It's just like, we're going to say whatever, have it hit the wall. If somebody's at an old age home and they just hear something like enough times, maybe they'll like believe it. And then we have to like argue with those people, or somebody that's like a farmer and they exist on a farm and then they take care of their crops, and then they come and they like, pay attention to the news to some extent, but like they're told this, and then now this is what they believe, and they fully and wholeheartedly believe this because a news organization that I literally in court was proven to be more of an entertainment than factual news, told them this. And then like this is where like we are as a country, that this is like somehow like gonna lead us to extinction, I guess, like trans community United States extinction. Is that event kind of thing? Is that what we gotta call it? I mean, other countries, I'm sure, are gonna keep their trans people safe, sound, and happy, and let them thrive and like live their lives. I think that's what you do to like any sane culture would just like leave trans people the fuck alone, because this is ridiculous. But anyway. Key points. The court said the law wasn't just regulating medical conduct, but was censoring speech by therapists. The majority opinion was written by Justice Neil Gorsuch. It was only the one person that like voted against it, warning the ruling could weaken states' ability to protect children and regulate healthcare. And so this is like the takeaway, I guess, is that like this was what state was this? This was Colorado. So the implications is the decision could affect similar bans in 20 plus states that currently prohibit conversion therapy for minors. So that's where we're at. Literally torturing children. This is what this has been proven to be doing. Like, you can't go around calling like groups of people terrorists while terrorizing the people and literally being the terrorist. But whenever like it's called out, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of frustrating. It's kind of not so nice, That's about it. That's about it. That's all I can take. I'm literally going to just take my day. I'm going to go. I'm going to do my thing. It's exhausting. It is literally exhausting to be trans in America. I'm going to go through my day today, and then it's going to be like 2 or 3 days tops. Absolute tops, okay? I don't want to swear again. It's just like absolute tops. And that you hit the point of like, okay, now there's some other news story. And now I have to like dig into this. I have to learn about this. Or if I don't understand enough about it, I can let the fear literally just consume me, which is what I see so many people, so many other trans girls doing in my like circle kind of thing. And it's debilitating to watch even. I mean, it's frustrating. So that's why I'm here. If I can do even the slightest drip in the bucket of making a change on like these issues, or like bringing awareness to these things, or like leading to the point that like this actually ends in a feasible time period before we have to like claw and just claw to get our rights back for the next 10-20 years, I would prefer to do it this way. I'd prefer like you leave trans people to their own like lives. Like, what are you doing? But like, again, like I could only imagine if you were already on the path of like puberty blockers, now like what, you have to stop puberty blockers. You have to go through this puberty that I've talked about this in my other video, that like if you go through puberty and then you have these changes, you literally have to address these by getting surgery done. And given the political climate of the United States, I would argue it's more medically necessary now than absolute ever. Farther from cosmetic than it ever was prior, because prior people didn't know there even were trans people. Now everybody is like on transvestigator mindset, and cis girls are getting clocked as trans, and it's bizarro world. Welcome to our world. Yeah.